Hey everybody, it's Kai here, and I'm going to be doing the effects of social media. So, we're going to be covering a few topics. So, some of them will be the effects that it has on your mental health. Obviously, some of the things that it can kind of, persuade you in your like day to day life. And also, I am going to cover shortly about how it can be an addiction and how it can be something that can obviously affect just your day to day social life. So I did want to start off with the first one. So just obviously just the effects it has on your mental health. So the one question I want to ask everybody is how often would you say that you spend scrolling through social media? And how many times have you seen somebody who gets like just a ridiculous amount of likes for very minimum content? Or on top of that, you see them live like these crazy lavish lives and you just think, man, why can't that be me? I've been working, I've been struggling, I've been doing so many things, and I still haven't hit that point. And then, sometimes they'll say something like, oh, all you have to do is just work hard. All you have to do is this. And it obviously, hits you hard because you're like, I am working hard. So what is the difference? What are you doing, that's different from what I'm doing? And these are some of the things that I wanted to touch on in terms of mental health. So I did want to start by saying something very obvious and very straightforward. And like not to beat around the bush too much on this point is when you see a lot of those things, it's fake. A majority of those things are fake. I'd say like a good like 90% of that is fake. Where a lot of these guys, they're not really living these luxury lifestyles. A lot of them are posed, and like there's plenty of videos like that have debunked a lot of those things. So this is why again, like I'm not going to go like too hard into these points because it's easily things that you guys can kind of quickly kind of YouTube and kind of have a look at these things with plenty of people debunking this stuff. But I did want to talk about how it does affect your mental health, and why these things shouldn't be taken too seriously. Like that's mainly what I wanted to cover on these points. So a lot of the times it can lead to things like depression, because you are seeing these people kind of live these luxury lifestyles and you're wishing that you could do that. Or like even just sometimes like if you're doing a post, and you feel something like that you're very passionate about and you post it up and then like you see on your social media you're only getting like 13 likes, maybe 50 likes, 40 likes, and you could have about 1,000 followers, and obviously, we worry that people don't care about our content or we think it's not good enough. And so we try to change the content that we're doing, to kind of cater to these people that, are getting the likes. So we kind of like lose a part of ourselves. And that's also where part of that depression comes in because we're not being ourselves anymore. And I feel like that's an easy trap to kind of fall into where we kind of want to do things that other people are doing because that's the content that's, getting the most attention. And I feel like if we keep doing that, it is just going to constantly keep affecting us, mentally, and we're never going to be happy and we're never going to be able to create the things that we really want to create. So, I mean, if you're doing something and you're putting something out there in the world and it's not getting that many likes, but you are proud of it, I say stay with it. Don't let it be something that's going to add to your depression or something that's going to add to your, you know, add to your anxiety. I feel like it's so easy to fall down that rabbit hole, and like I've been guilty of that myself in the past, where like I try to create content that I wasn't really happy with. I was just doing it because like I seen other people getting a ton of likes for it, and I started to get frustrated, And then even like in terms of my videos, so any of you guys that have followed me from my previous channel, like to now, like you understand that there was a lot of topics that I was talking about, and I worried so much about what people thought about that, rather than kind of being like, this is true information, this is stuff that I need to get out there, and whether people, are going to keep disagreeing with it, even though it's actual facts, should I let that, control how I feel about my content? And I let it, control how I felt about my content. Now, there's a difference, though, and this is where I did want to say the difference. Like, there's a difference between actually putting things out there that are absolute lies, or just putting out things that are just obviously being crazy negative and just being a complete, you know, just a complete ass. And I kind of feel like if you're doing things like that, that's a totally different situation. And I kind of feel like, yeah, obviously those are the times that you have to kind of change your content, because you're just out there just offending people for no reason. You're literally just doing it to get kicks. That's a totally different thing. But if you're just trying to create content, whether it's music, whether it's gaming, whether it's podcasts about mental health, whether it's like, whatever it could be, whatever, there's plenty of things out there. But I do hear one of those general things from a lot of people where they'll say that they don't want to post up this content because they're worried it's not going to get enough likes, it's not going to get enough attention, and then they feel like they have to be somebody else for people to give those likes. And like it's heartbreaking to watch that, because people never get to really be themselves because they want to compete with everybody else and be like everybody else. But the problem is, if we're all like everybody else, then we're never going to be ourselves and we're never going to have original content. So I kind of feel like, be creative, guys. Like, put stuff out there. So at least it'll put you in a better positive state. Like, you won't feel so depressed. You won't feel like, you won't constantly feel like you need to compete with people. Don't take social media so serious, guys. Like, social media is great, but we've lost the meaning of it. And like, again, this is one of the most amazing things that we got. Like right now, right? I'm broadcasting this. This is going to go across the world, and whether it gets 1 views or 100 views or whatever, who cares? End of the day, it's like we're able to do this. Like, can you imagine, like, back in the 80s or like in the 90s where we had very limited internet and we couldn't do this, or even before that where people couldn't do this? We can literally speak to the world now. We can do so many amazing things. But instead of thinking about that, like, we want to compete with everybody. We want to kind of just, care what everybody thinks. Like, who cares what people think? Like, if you're doing something that you're proud of, that's all that should matter. Screw what everyone else says. Like, that's one thing. And trust me, guys, if you do that, your mental health is going to be a lot better. And I know it's easy to fall into that trap, like I said. Now, again, this also kind of comes to my next point that I was talking about. So I wanted to talk about how, like, social media gets to the point where it influences our opinions. Now, I know I try not to talk a lot about politics on my channel, and sometimes on streaming I'll do it now and again, just depending on what we're talking about. But I do try to keep it to a minimum as much as possible. I try not to just only make it about that. But lately, in the last 3 years, people have become extremely political, and it's got to the point where we're losing friends, we're losing family, we're losing other people due to what's on social media, because they're telling us this is how we think, this is, this is the right cause to support. And the one thing I wanted to say, guys, is it's at the point now where it's been proven that some of this stuff, it's literally bots that are just saying a lot of this stuff. There's also the media that's saying a lot of this stuff just to stoke people's emotions. Now, you guys got to stop running with your emotions. Like, look, it's okay to be, strong about a cause, and you can keep it near dear to your heart, but don't lose friends over it. Like, agree to disagree with people. And this is the other thing. Like, we care so much about what's popular now that we don't want to be ourselves. Like, we no longer care about just, having a decent conversation with somebody, or just, agreeing to disagree, or just hearing someone's point of view. Like, if someone says something that you don't agree with these days, it's just like, we either want to cancel them, or we don't want to be their friends, or we just, block them straight off Instagram and stuff like that. It's crazy, and look, honestly, like, I'm at that point where, like, I stopped caring about a lot of that stuff. Like, I just want to be me. I want to be myself. I want to express my opinions. And, whether people agree, whether people don't, if people, disagree, like, I really stopped caring now. Like, it's just be yourself, guys. And if you want to have a conversation, especially with me, just talk to me normally. Like, just act like a normal human being. Like, we don't have to agree on every single point. We can see things differently, and we can have a rational discussion about it. And that's how we grow as people, is through discussion. Is if you have a different point to what I have, maybe I can learn something. Same with you. Maybe you could learn something. And it goes both ways. And this is how we grow as people, is through discussions. And that's how a lot of growth has happened through human history, is through discussions and understanding people, not just canceling people. And just, some of the idiotic things that I hear is like, people say, oh, if you're a certain color, like, you shouldn't have, an opinion on these matters or this matter and whatever. It's just, to me, that's just complete rubbish. Stop focusing so much on race, guys. Stop focusing so much on what the media wants us to focus on. Like, just treat everyone like a human being. Like, race and all that should have nothing to do with it. Just be you. And same with gender stuff. It's like, stop making that like the main topic of every discussion. Like, who cares who you sleep with? Stop making that everyone else's problem. No one should have to care. But these are the things that people argue so much about. And if we look at the statistics, if we look online, these are the main things people are worried about. It's either what someone's color is or what someone's gender is. And obviously, look, there are certain topics that should be discussed on that side. Like, in terms of, like, if we're talking about things with Disney, for example, like, we can all kind of agree to an extent that it is getting a little bit out of hand, and fair enough, let's have a talk about it, but then it goes so far on both sides of the argument, you know what I mean? And that's where we kind of lose each other. It's like we should be able to talk about this without it turning into something hateful. Like, whether you agree with how, like, for example, if we're going to stay on this point with Disney, whether you agree with what I'm saying or whether you don't agree, that's fine. But let's talk about it. Let's have a civil discussion. Why do we need to argue? Why do we need to hate? But people want to just hate, and they don't want to just be normal human beings. Like, I don't understand why it's so hard. So a lot of this stuff that we see on social media just pokes people to want to kind of get into arguments. And there's been data out there that's been showing that too, where, like, the media especially is just causing arguments for no reason and just wanting people to hate each other and divide us. And why do we want to be divided? Like, we should be coming together, guys. We shouldn't be hating each other. We should want to make friends. Like, like, and like, depression and everything's through the roof now because people are either too scared to say what they want to say, or it's at the point now where people just kind of feel like, what's the point anymore? Like, the world's just gone to crap. And is that really a world that we want? Is that how we want the next, even the next 5 years to be? Like how it is right now, where you can't share an opinion, you can't share a thought, you can't just be a normal person anymore. You have to really worry about what you have to say. I mean, it's got so ridiculous. But again, guys, this is stuff that's very, 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 very silly and very just I don't know, man. Like, it's just one of those things that I just feel like we've talked about so much, we've exhausted it to the point where it's like, every point has kind of been made. So let's just kind of take a step back instead of just hating on each other. And that's mainly what I wanted to say. And again, guys, look, when I'm making these videos, I should edit it sometimes, and just kind of when I'm not um, when I'm not being fully clear, and then sometimes I should come back to that. But I like to do everything in one go because I want it to be like, I want it to be unedited. I want it to be real. I don't want it to be like I'm perfect with every single thing I do, and that's kind of why I do things like this. And I'm gonna be trying to do these in one take. So any of my future ones, it's gonna be in one take. But I'm gonna try to make the points very, very clear. I'm gonna try to be very straightforward. So it's as clear as possible. And sometimes, like, you got like 1,000 thoughts running in your head, and sometimes that's why it's a little bit hard to make it clear in the one go. But um, that's mainly what I wanted to touch on with that. Now, the very last thing I want to touch on is that I wanted to talk about why we end up following social media in the first place, and why we end up, like, taking so much, what's the word, why we take so much care, I guess, into what's happening on social media. So for me personally, from what I see, is that people want to be famous, or people want that attention. People want that, like, that acceptance in society. And I feel like that's the only way they're going to get it, is by listening to what others are saying rather than just being that individual. Because obviously, if you have an opinion, like, on a certain subject, and people don't agree with it, like I was saying in my previous point, people are going to jump on you. So again, people just want to, they don't want that backlash, they don't want those headaches, and it confuses a lot of people, and it gets to the point where they're just like, man, I just need to be like everybody else, because if not, I'm just going to cop a lot of hate. So I know I'm kind of semi-repeating myself, but a lot of these points tie in, and I want you guys to really think about all these points, and just kind of, even if one of those things kind of, like, sinks in, and you guys kind of think, that's fair enough, that's a fair point, maybe we should try and change that. That's all I ask. I don't expect you guys to fully change your lives. Like, I don't expect you to, become a totally different person, but all I'm asking is that everybody just takes a step back and listen to each other instead of just arguing, and instead of just being complete assholes, just be nice to each other. Like, I don't see why it's so hard. Like, we can have a difference of opinions. We don't have to hate each other. So, anyways, guys, look, I'm gonna wrap it up, but I want you guys to really think about that, and I hope some of this kind of, has helped, and I hope that some of you guys kind of really, have taken something out of this, and I hope you guys stop putting so much self worth into social media, and stop making yourself feel like you're not worth as much, or you're not someone that actually can do something good in life because you're not getting the likes that other people were getting. Like, don't worry so much what other people are doing. Focus on yourself. I mean, obviously there's always room for improvement to a point, but don't let it fully change who you are, because who knows, some of the stuff that you're doing now, maybe it's not getting a lot of attention now, but maybe in like 3 years, 4 years, maybe, like, people can actually start liking that content, or being like, oh wow, like that was actually pretty cool, and then they come back and then they want to keep watching you. So, like, just remember, guys, people always change. So don't change who you are. Be who you are, because you never know, one day it could pay off. So, anyways, guys, that's all I got to say. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. And if you guys want to contact me, there's Instagram. Some of you got me on Discord, but Instagram's probably the easiest because I check that the most. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Have a great one.